I was told to turn it on too. I'm privileged, you probably already still heard me. I'm privileged to not only represent educators, but also paraprofessionals, food service workers, health aid, nurses, and many more professionals who help enable our students to learn every single day. I want to welcome you all to the Saving Public Education, Pay Teachers What They Deserve Town Hall. We're joined today by over 150 teachers, paraprofessionals, education support staff, and also we are live streaming across the country today. We have an exciting lineup of speakers that include our teachers and education support staff from across the country. So many of our professionals who educate and care for our students are struggling to make a living wage. One job should be enough. And now, I am excited to introduce Senator Bernie Sanders, the ranking member of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Thank you, Senator.
Well, Nicole, thank you very much, and let me thank all of you for being here today. In my view, you are some of the outstanding heroines and heroes in American society today. The work you are doing is of enormous consequence. You are trying to sustain and improve the lives of our children, often under very difficult conditions. And you go to work every day, every year, and I thank you very much for doing that. In a little while, we're going to be hearing from some wonderful folks who have spent their lives fighting for education. We'll hear from Billy Helene. Ed Markey from Massachusetts, Senator, will be here with us later. Carol Goronskis will be here from the Florida Education Association. Corey O'Hara from the Boston Public Schools will be here. Randi Weingarten, the president of the AFT, will be here. And Princess Moss, the vice president of the NEA, will be here. So we got your unions that represent many millions of teachers and paraprofessionals are going to be here in a moment. Let me just start by getting, in a sense, away from education a little bit to say that it seems to me, and I think to most Americans, that when we talk about the future of our country, we are talking about our children. And for those who proclaim great love for this country, one might think that they would be doing everything that they can be doing to improve the lives of our kids, all right? And yet in America today, the richest country in the history of the world, where we have massive income, wealth inequality, where the people on top have never, ever, ever had it so good, as a nation, shamefully, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And I am quite sure that every teacher here runs into that poverty every day, right? I was just in northern Vermont talking to teachers there. Kids coming to school hungry, not knowing whether they're going to get a decent meal during the day. Kids coming from dysfunctional family. Kids dealing with trauma every single day. And guess who are the people? The professionals who deal with that issue. You are. And I thank you for doing that. But most importantly, that should not be what's happening in America. We should have a generation of children who are blossoming, who are growing, who are healthy, not children who are living in poverty, not kids who are sleeping in cars, not kids whose parents are working 2 or 3 jobs to maintain the family. And further, when we talk about education and what today is about, we understand that as bad as the situation is right now, Trump's big, beautiful bill will only make a bad situation even worse. Well, and again, it speaks to the absurd priorities that this administration is fostering on the American people. Who in their right minds thinks that when millions of our kids are living in poverty, that the major priority is to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%? Over $200 billion in tax breaks to the top 0.2%. And then at the same time, make massive cuts in Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act so that approximately 15 million Americans, including families that you will interact with every day, are going to lose the health care that they currently have. Our health care system is broken. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. That should be our goal. Health care is a human right, not to throw 15 million people off the health care that they have. And then on top of that, this Trump legislation provides over $50 billion a year for vouchers to privatize education in America. So I think I speak for the vast, not just the people in this room, but the vast majority of the American people who are saying we should not be creating a two-tier education system in America, one in which we have private schools for the rich and the well-connected, and then we have severely underfunded public schools for low-income and working-class and disabled kids. That is not what America is supposed to be about. Public education has been the backbone of our democracy for a very long time. Public schools are the institutions that bring people together to learn about each other and to grow. We should be strengthening and expanding our nation's public schools, not privatizing them so some corporations can make a lot of money off of our kids. Public school teachers in America today have one of the toughest, one of the most demanding, and one of the most underappreciated jobs in the country. And I have the feeling that when many of you were in college preparing to become teachers, you probably never, ever thought that you'd be dealing with what you're dealing with today. Again, I just talked to a young teacher, and I said, well, did you feel prepared going to college? She said, no. I never fully understood what I was going to have to be dealing with in terms of the problems that our kids are facing. So, first point that I want to make, well, it's about the 83rd point that I'm making, but maybe the most important, is that a civilized, democratic, humane society understands the importance of education. It's not a byword, it's not at the end of the line. If we are serious about the future of America and our kids, we put education at the top of the list, and we say thank you to the educators, and we treat them with the respect that they are due. Teachers today are experiencing higher levels of stress and higher levels of burnout than people in most other occupations. Many of our kids are coming into classrooms today for a wide variety of reasons, including poverty and the economic stress that their families are experiencing. These kids are coming into your classrooms with emotional problems and anxieties that teachers in previous generations have never had to deal with. And I remember talking to a teacher in Vermont, was teaching a foreign language, and what he was saying is, I spend more time trying to be a counselor, a mentor, a supporter to my kids than I do teaching what I'm supposed to be teaching. Is that an experience you guys deal with? And the result of all of that, of stress is that nearly 8% of teachers leave their profession each and every year, double the rate in countries like Canada and countries around the world. According to the most recent statistics, over 400,000 teaching positions, nearly 1 in 8 in our country, are vacant today or are filled by teachers who are not fully certified. Imagine that. Imagine that. We are the richest country in the history of the world, and we have hundreds of thousands of vacancies, which means that our kids are not getting the attention and the education that they need. Incredibly, 44% of public school teachers are now quitting their profession within 5 years, and we know the reasons why. I want teachers in this country to be so proud of the work they're doing, winning so much respect from their communities, earning the kinds of salaries that they deserve. I want them to spend their life working in those schools, not having to quit because of economic and other reasons. Now, why are teachers leaving the profession? Why are so many public school teachers leaving the work that they, in many cases, wanted to do all of their lives? I suspect that many of you wanted to become teachers from when you were in school. Why do we have a massive shortage of teachers in our country? Well, there are a number of reasons, but one of the primary reasons is the pathetically low pay that teachers in America receive. According to the most recent statistics, the average starting teacher salary in America is less than $47,000 a year, and about 1/3 of all public school teachers in America make less than $60,000 a year. And I have been in school districts where teachers are starting at a significantly lower salary than that. Well, look, I don't have to go down south. I can go up north, too. I will tell you that there are rural districts where teachers are starting at $35,000, $40,000 a year. So you tell me, how are we supposed to attract the best and the brightest, which is what we want for our kids, into the teaching profession on salaries of just $40,000 or $45,000 a year? Further, and this is truly incredible, the average public school teacher in America today earns over 5% less than he or she did nearly 30 years ago after adjusting for inflation. All right? In other words, incomes of teachers are going nowhere in a hurry. And that's not just an economic issue. That is a sense of disrespect to one of the most important professions in our country. So maybe we should get our priorities right, and instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires and spending over $1 trillion on the military, maybe we make sure that every teacher in America is adequately paid. The situation has become so absurd in terms of the economic priorities of professions in this country that, if you can believe it, 4 hedge fund managers on Wall Street made more money last year than every kindergarten teacher in America combined, 120,000. Well, you know, I kind of think that teaching children, nourishing children intellectually and emotionally at the most important and pivotal moments in their lives might be more important than some hedge fund manager making billions of dollars. And further, as inadequately paid as are our public school teachers, our school custodians, our food service workers, and paraprofessionals earn even less. So these are the folks, as you all know, who keep the school going, keep it clean, take care of the basic needs, do the repairs, feed the kids. Nearly 35% of paraprofessionals and school staff earn less than $25,000 a year. That is not the way you treat people who are maintaining schools. So if we're going to attract the best and the brightest into teaching, if we're going to encourage teachers to teach in underserved areas, if we're going to improve teacher retention and morale, and if we're going to improve student academic outcomes, then in my view, we need to pay teachers in America decent wages and decent benefits. And that is why today I am introducing the Pay Teachers Act. And this legislation would make sure that no teacher in America is paid less than $60,000 a year. It would increase wages for teachers who have made teaching their profession, those who have been on the job for 10, 20, or 30 years. We thank those people for their service. We reward those people for their continued service. It would ensure that no paraprofessional or school staff is paid less than $30 an hour. It would triple Title I funding, the major federal program that targets resources to high-poverty school districts. It would give every teacher in America $1,000 for classroom supplies per year. I cannot tell you, and I know that I don't have to tell you, not you, how many teachers in America, struggling economically themselves, take money out of their own pockets to take care of the basic needs of their classroom or their kids. Okay, so we thank you for your generosity and for your compassion. You should not have to do that in the richest country on earth. So, bottom line is we need a revolution in education. Most importantly, as a nation, we need to understand that if we are going to be a great country, if we're going to compete economically in the global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And if we're going to maintain a democracy, we need the best educated population in the world. And that's what you are doing every single day. So the goal is not only to pay teachers what they are worth, it's to say that in America, our goal is to have is to prize education, is to appreciate education, and to certainly thank all of those people who educate our kids. So thank you all very much. And now it is my pleasure to introduce a real fighter for education and for teachers, Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Bernie, huh? There every day, all day. Bernie fights for all of the people in our country every single day. And it is my honor to serve with Bernie insistently, persistently, consistently, every day. He's up, he's fighting, you know, to make sure everyone understands the disparities in our country, the opportunities which are not evenly distributed, even though people are working just as hard as everyone else, the opportunities are denied them. And we know that children are 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And what's the key? The key is the teachers. The key are the parents. The key are the kids themselves. Are we going to invest in them? Are we going to give them the resources they need in order to be successful? And that's why it's great for me to be here and partnering with Bernie on these issues. And I'm honored to be here with Randi Weingarten, the president of the AFT. Man, when she takes the microphone, people back up. Princess Moss, Vice President of the National Teachers Association of America. Princess, thank you so much. And educators Billy Heelan and Carol Garonskis and Corey O'Hare, thank you all for what you are doing and representing kind of the best of our nation. You are the backbone of our schools and our communities. You, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the bus drivers, the custodial workers, speech pathologists, laid the foundation for our children's future. You paved the path for children to be who they are and reach for their dreams. You support students and parents and communities. It is about time we support you in what you do every single day. But right now, too many educators and school workers are underpaid, undervalued, and overworked. You are asked to do too much with too little every single day of the school year. And I've heard from cafeteria workers who rely on SNAP to access healthy food, technology support staff who can't afford Wi-Fi at home, paraeducators who can't afford to send their child to college. And that is unacceptable in 2025 in the United States of America, the richest country in the history of the world. It is unacceptable that 1 out of every 5 paraprofessionals are visiting food pantries. It is unacceptable that educators have to choose between affording a prescription or paying their rent. Educators deserve a livable and a competitive wage, and that's why I'm proud to join with Senator Sanders as a co-sponsor of his Pay Teachers Act, again this Congress. And while I am proud to be introducing my Pay Paraprofessionals and Education Support Staff Act, which we also have to put into law. What this bill would do is it would set a minimum wage for paraprofessionals and education support staff in our country at $45,000 a year, or $30 an hour for paraprofessionals across our country. And that just sets the bare minimum of a living wage for which states could go beyond. And we're not stopping there. My Paraprofessionals Bill of Rights also calls for high quality and affordable health care, paid leave, training and professional development opportunities, safe staffing levels, healthy workplaces, and year-round security. Because you deliver for your students day in and day out, instead of delivering for you, we are watching Donald Trump and Republicans deliver for billionaires and their MAGA cult by cutting public school funding, policing students and communities based on where they're from, who they are, and making the mountain of true education justice higher to climb. I still live in Malden, Massachusetts, a blue-collar community, 65,000 people. Last year, graduating class, Malden High School, 25% white, 25% black, 25% Asian, 25% Latino. Or put it another way, America in 2025, right? And what our future is going to look like. And we have to invest in them. So we know that Jeff Bezos doesn't need another yacht. Elon Musk doesn't need another house. Your students need support. You need fair pay. You need dignified working conditions. My father was a union leader. He used to say, Eddie, don't agonize, organize. And that's what teachers are doing all across our country. I was a substitute teacher for the first year after graduating from college. And I could see the work, the hard work that teachers do. It's hard. And paraprofessionals are not substitutes. They're there every day. They're there to help you every single day. And they deserve the dignity, the respect, the pay, the health care that everyone in our society should receive. So let's keep going, keep organizing, keep working, keep pushing, keep saying no to billionaires, sellouts, MAGA extremists, and together we will keep fighting to defend attacks on our public schools, to protect your right to organize, fully fund public education for everyone, and guarantee your fair pay and dignified working conditions. You are the champions for the students of our nation. It's now time for us to be the champions for you. Thank you all so much for what you do every single day.
See, Ed was a substitute teacher for 1 year, and he decided to get an easier job. Come to the Senate. All right, it is my pleasure right now to introduce Randi Weingarten, who is the president of the AFD. Randi.
See, I am really short. As both Senator Sanders and Senator Markey were speaking, I'm preaching to people who are lobbying all day. And isn't it great this moment to be an educator, right this moment, listening to these two people? But what I was thinking as they were speaking and as they were conveying a deep respect and gratitude to all of you, that is because of two things: how great they are and how great you are. And I want to express gratitude to Senator Sanders, who is the ranking member on the Education and Workforce Committee, which is a really important committee in terms of the future of America. And to Senator Markey, who put this bill together on paraprofessionals when people felt so low, and the respect that people had initially for hearing a senator of the United States of America saying, oh, this is really important. But think about, for you all, how many times you have heard in meetings that you have been in where somebody says, oh, politics doesn't matter, or why are we involved in politics? Why are we involved in politics? Think about and remember today. Remember a moment when two senators of the United States Senate who said that we understand how important education is, and education is public education, not the trying to have a ripoff of rich folks taking funding from public schools. Public education is public education. Public education is you. Public education is what you do every single day in ways that almost no one sees it. But Senator Sanders and Senator Markey see it, and they not only are saying thank you for your service to the nation, they are saying we understand we have to use politics to solve problems, and these two bills are bills that are going to solve problems. So thank you. So, and they both spoke so much about their bills, it feels very obvious as to what they are intended to do. But let me say two more things about them. Number one, educators will do everything they can do, regardless of what they get paid. Educators take money out of their pockets for our children, regardless of what they get paid. We find ways to give kids coats in the winter, regardless of what you get paid. Or sneak food, regardless of what you get paid. And this is going to be harder next year because that big ugly bill is going to make people sicker, hungrier, and poorer. So today, having these two bills being introduced, I can go through all the statistics that Senator Sanders did. I'm not going to. I'm just going to say these two bills, what they do is they send a message from sea to shining sea that it is important, if a district can't fund this, this is the role of the federal government to lift up a base, for paraprofessionals to lift up a base for school teachers, so it shouldn't depend on whether people in a community can do that. And number two, it sends a message far and wide that education is a national goal and a national priority. And instead of dismantling education, this has nothing to do with whether local school boards or school districts should run education. We believe they should. But it says this is a national priority. Our students are a national priority. Education and public education and higher education is a national priority. If we want to be nation builders, if we want to have a future in this country, this is a national priority, and that means our teachers and our paraprofessionals who are the ones who teach kids, they must be a national priority too. And the third thing it says, and Senator Sanders says this so well all of the time, which is, if this is a national priority, then it means that the workers who work every day in it, and please, we are all workers, the workers, the profession that makes every other profession possible, that we are entitled to a decent wage. We are entitled to a pathway to a middle-class wage, so we can have a wage that helps us grow a family, that helps us have the American dream. That this is not, we did not say we would be impoverished. We did not take a plea of poverty when we decided to be teachers. We said we want to do what we need to do to help our children soar, and that requires us to be treated with dignity and respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randi. Princess Moss is the Vice President of the National Education Association, the NEA, and an elementary school music teacher in Virginia. Princess?
Well, good afternoon. Isn't it a great day to be an educator? It sure is. We are, as Randi said, we are the profession that makes all the other professions possible. And I am so excited to be here to, on behalf of the National Education Association, to thank Senator Sanders and Senator Markey for moving forward these two very, very important bills. You know what? You can respond what? It's okay, okay. Even before this current administration took office, one of the greatest challenges we face in public education is the staffing shortages in our schools. A primary reason for the shortage is because teacher salaries continue to lag behind the pay of other college-educated professionals. Our support staff continues to work and push and fight for a living wage. The Economic Policy Institute's research shows that the pay gap between teachers and other comparable professionals continues to grow, reaching 26.6% in 2023. This chronic pay problem has made it increasingly difficult to recruit and retain teachers and support staff. And with the unprecedented attacks this administration is making on education in the form of, one, trying to dictate what we can learn, two, making our immigrant children fearful of even coming to school, and three, cutting the funding and programs our students need to have a well-rounded education, we continue to address the pay inequities our educators face, particularly in low and moderate income districts. Here are some interesting data points. 40% of teachers and 37% of ESPs, that's what we call them in the NEA. I know that's not what you do in AFT, education support professionals, paras, custodians, cafeteria workers, etc. 37% hold more than one job. Of those working more than one job, just over half, or 51%, hold an additional position outside of education, while 43% have a position inside education. 1/3, or 34%, work their additional position during the academic year. At NEA, we have a saying, and that is simply, one job should be enough. Our educators should not have to take on 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs in order to make ends meet and take care of their own families. And with the help of lawmakers like Senator Sanders and Senator Markey and others who stand with our students, we will continue to demand that this nation find sustainable solutions for our students, solutions that will allow us to reclaim public education as a common good for the 90% of students who attend public schools in this country and the educators and school staff who work with them each and every day. So again, thank all of you. Thank you, Senator Sanders and Senator Markey. Onward.
Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce Billy Helene, a teacher who has taught in New Mexico Public Schools since 2014 and president of the Rio Rancho School Employees Union. Billy?
Good afternoon, AFT family. How are you guys? Senator Sanders, Senator Markey, and President Weingarten, thank you so much for hosting this crucial town hall. It's an honor to be here. My name is Billy Heelan. As Senator Sanders just introduced me, I am the president of Local 4933 in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. I'm also a full-time first grade teacher. I'm not here just as an advocate, but as someone living the reality of our education system every single day. It's a fundamental injustice that the very people we entrust with our children's education and well-being are often paid so little that they have to work second or third jobs just to keep their heads above water. This is where Senator Sanders and Senator Markey's bills come into play. These aren't just pieces of legislation. They are a vital acknowledgement of the immense value and tireless dedication of every individual who contributes to our students' success. Let me share with you some exciting things that we're doing in my home state of New Mexico. We have a 3-tiered licensure system, a career ladder that lets teachers advance from level 1 license to a level 2 and then a level 3 with corresponding pay increases. In 2022, it started in 2020, but finally got through in 2022. The state, with input from AFT, of course, also brought substantial pay raises. A level 1 teacher went from a base pay of $40,000 a year to $50,000 a year. Level 2 went from 50 to 60, and a level 3 went from 60 to 70. It's even more now because of additional raises and cost of living adjustments passed every year. New Mexico continues to support our communities by funding free childhood education, free higher education, and maintaining support for all learners. Let me share with you some real-life examples from my district in Rio Rancho. But I want you to bear in mind, too, that our district does a little extra to make sure that people get paid a little more. Consider June. She works at my school. She used to be an education assistant, and after working all day with kindergartners, she'd rush to her second job and barely see her family. June's passion wasn't enough to cover rising costs, so she went back to school. New Mexico paid for her tuition, and they paid her a $35,000 stipend when she was in her full-time teacher residency. As of last year, she's now a first grade teacher in my team. She started as a level 1 teacher, earning a minimum of $60,000 a year. And then there's Andy. He's a teacher who moved from Texas in 2021. His initial level 1 salary of $41,000 meant that he and his partner lived paycheck to paycheck. A minor emergency would have been devastating for them. In 2022, Andy's salary jumped to $54,000 a year. Advancing to a level 3 license this year, meant that he received another significant raise to a minimum of $83,000 a year, finally bringing financial security. My story is also a testament to the work New Mexico has done. I was unpaid when I started my teacher residency program, and as a result, we almost lost our home. But we hung in there so I could pursue my lifelong dream, truly lifelong dream of teaching. And I started my career in 2014 at $34,000 a year. We still lived paycheck to paycheck for 6 years until New Mexico passed those raises. Now, as a level 3 teacher with a master's degree and over 10 years of experience, I earn almost $84,000 a year. Yeah, great. This compensation allows for a degree of financial security that many educators can only dream of. And it proves what's possible when states in our country invest in the teaching force. This investment is also about supporting critical areas like career and technical education. Rio Rancho has built a substantial and robust CTE program in which our CTE teachers are placed on that career ladder. They are truly valued for the difference they make. These moves in New Mexico aren't just a political talking point. They're a real investment in the people who work in our schools. It shows that when we value our school employees financially, we value them wholly. And it ripples out to improved education and a healthier school environment for our kids. These two bills from the senators are an extension of this essential principle, and we must support their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. I'd now like to introduce Carol Goronskis, the Vice President of the Florida Education Association and the first paraprofessional officer with the Florida Education Association. Carol?
Good afternoon. As Senator Sanders says, my name is Carol Goronskis. First and foremost, I'm an education staff professional. I'm an ESE, an education special needs educator of 18 years in the classroom. And I want to thank both Senator Sanders, Senator Markey, and President Weingarten and Vice President Moss for having me here today. This is a thrill, but it's so needed. I began my career in 2000 walking into a classroom as a volunteer parent. My child was starting kindergarten and I never left. They finally said, "How do we pay you?" And I said, "Oh, pay me, that's great." My paycheck wasn't a concern to start. And then it became a concern because making less than $18 an hour, my husband lost his job as an engineer. And after working morning care, afternoon care, summer school, and a second job at Home Depot, and babysitting most of the rest of the summer, I barely made $29,000. Take away the health insurance and the deductibles, the 3% deal from Senator Scott, then Governor Scott, and I took home less than $16,000 a year. I was the one medical emergency or car emergency away from losing everything, and it happened. In 2012, my son was graduating high school, and my husband lost his job. Now we're living on less than $29,000 a year, and I'm trying to keep my mortgage, my health insurance, my life insurance policies, gas in the car, and food on the table, and we were drowning in medical debt. This bill will be life-altering for hundreds of thousands of paraprofessionals, bus drivers, custodians, every education staff professional in this country. The rural communities, and when you think of Florida, you think Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, everybody comes. But the rest of our state is all rural, agricultural, and not driven by high tourism. So when we're needing a second or third job, it's not available. So we are truly struggling. And when we think we did move to $15 an hour, that got one job off of our plate. One job. We still work the other 1 or 2 jobs on top of it. So what we're looking at is being a change of life when I think of what it would have been like to have had this opportunity in 2012 and not eat my entire 401k from a prior career where my husband took a job in Wisconsin and commuted for 5 years before I was so blessed to win an election at the state level. This would have saved our lives. And my son will tell you that as a child on the spectrum, He knew what it was like to watch his mom come home every night, local president, working the 2 jobs, working extended day, working anything I could get. He saw the struggle we were under, and he couldn't help. He wasn't able to help, but he watched and did everything he could in our home to make it better. So this bill, senators, thank you. It will change our lives.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for speaking for millions of Americans. Now I'd like to introduce Corey O'Hara, a 6th grade social studies teacher who has taught in Boston's public schools since 2013. Corey?
Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. My name is Corey O'Hara, and I'm a proud member of the Boston Teachers Union, having first joined the district in 2013. I teach social studies at the Edison Elementary School in Boston, and I'm a licensed history and special education teacher with a sheltered English immersion endorsement. The AFT is a union of professionals. That's a title we all hold dear, because to teach our highest need students, those with learning disabilities, those still mastering English, those facing food insecurity and housing instability, we need highly trained professional educators. We need teachers who know how to differentiate instruction, who understand trauma, who adapt curriculum with both skill and care needed to meet our students where they are. And we need a system that tells those educators, if you invest in your training, if you take out that loan for your MED, you'll have a job in a society that respects your career choice, not one that punishes you for it. But that vision challenges the narrative we've been sold. We've been told that teaching is little more than glorified babysitting, that it's summer camp, that it's not a profession, it's a stepping stone. You don't need training when you only rely on a scripted curriculum. You do it for 2 years after college, then go cash out in a cushy private sector gig. This narrative hasn't just sought to devalue our work, it's actively served corporate interests. Charter networks and vouchered private schools make millions by underpaying staff, offloading students with complex needs onto the public system, and dodging licensure requirements by crying teacher shortage. But let's be clear, it's not a teacher shortage, it's a wage shortage. When the cost of an education degree outweighs the pay of a teacher's job, it's no wonder our pipelines are drying up. We come home exhausted, only to have to work a side gig to make ends meet. People aren't walking away from the profession, they're being priced out of it. Personally, I've worked in the summers and after school to be able to keep my head above water. In Boston, our membership recently fought a long battle for a fair contract, and I'm proud to say that over 3 years, teachers will see salary increases of 9 to 11%, ABAs will see increases of 28%, and paraprofessionals will see increases of 23 to 31%. Boston is an expensive city, and this contract brings us closer to a livable wage. Teaching is the most important thing in my life. It is my privilege to educate the next generation of leaders in the city I love. And it breaks my heart to see education departments across the country sitting half empty, would-be teachers choosing anything else. But as I tell my students, we can curse the darkness or we can light a candle. The Pay Teachers Act, championed by Senator Sanders, and the Pay Paraprofessional and Education Support Staff Act, championed by Senator Markey, are candles. It's recognition that when we invest in teachers, we invest in our democracy, in our economy, and in our kids. So contact your reps, call your senators, tell them this isn't charity, it's infrastructure. It's survival, it's fairness, and it's justice. So let's turn up the pressure. Let's pass these bills, and together, let's light these candles. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Corey. All right, we have some time for some questions, so let's jump into it. Who's got a question? Oh, I don't believe that. All right, who has there we go. All right, right here. Stand up, stand up. Tell us who you are.
Hello, I'm Emma, and I'm an aspiring educator. Oh, sorry, I'm Emma. I'm an aspiring educator from California, and with this administration, there's a lot of us who are just graduating college who are very hesitant to go into a teaching career, and I was wondering if you have a message that you'd like to give to us aspiring educators across the country.
Well, two things. This administration ain't going to last forever. And we're going to do our best next year to make sure that their power is significantly limited by taking away their powers in the House and the Senate. But I think the main point that I would make, and I think it's true of every person in this room, what you are choosing is to live a life in which you get your fulfillment by helping others. And in some cases in this room, our teachers and paraprofessionals are helping some of the most vulnerable people in our country, children who are struggling every single day. And you get satisfaction out of that. And you choose to help other people and become more human by doing that, rather than being some kind of crook on Wall Street manipulating the market so you can get rich. This is a value system. And the good news is that more Americans agree with your values than with the values that it's every person for themselves, and we got to step on everybody, we got to lie, we got to cheat, we got to steal. Those are the values that most Americans believe. And we have just got to create the kind of political movement that we need in this country that reflects those values, so that education, not greed, becomes the top priority. All right, anybody else here want to add, jump in? Don't be shy to respond to the questions. Yeah.
I'll jump in. I'll
Okay.
just say our babies need you. They're counting on you. You are the future. So we are waiting for you. And the only way to change the system is to be a part of it. So welcome to the profession.
One of the reasons that this bill is so important is that the smearing of public school teachers and the defunding of public schools is an intentional strategy because of a fear of knowledge and a fear of pluralism. And so when you actually teach, you are making a difference in the lives of not only those young people in front of you, but you are actually making a country better. And you are really nation builders in that kind of way. It is a precious resource, those people who teach. And part of our job, and when I say teach, I mean also being a paraprofessional, a bus driver. And part of our jobs, in some ways, the two of us as union leaders, just like part of the jobs of Senator Markey and Senator Sanders, which is why I'm so grateful he wanted to have questions, is to actually be that deep support so you have the agency that you need to soar.
Yes, ma'am, right here. Stand up. We get our, oh, wait a second, Mike is coming. All right.
Thank you. Is this better? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah Lerner. I'm a teacher in Florida. Go FEA. Thank you. I teach at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Thank you. I, along with Sari Beth Rosenberg, who I know is here, and Abby Clements, we co-founded Teachers Unified to End Gun Violence. I know that we used to have a White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention and lots of initiatives moving towards keeping teachers, school-based staff, and students safe. What is being done now to ensure that when we go to work, we come home from work?
Okay. Let me throw it out, and I'll respond in a second. Yes, ma'am.
I'm so happy to have you here. For me, for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and what our children face every day is why when I walked into a classroom in 2000, Columbine had happened in 99, and I never left because I thought if my child was going to be shot in school, I was going to be with him. I lost a classmate in Connecticut when she was holding Dylan. And those children that were at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas then are at FSU now and went through their second shooting. It is real. We live on a month-to-month basis of active shooter training. Our generation didn't have to do that, but my son has never known anything but that. And working in an emotional disability self-contained classroom, those children in my room had no idea what we were doing, the trauma we're creating because we're not taking care of the problem. We have to stop gun violence in our school. It's the #1 killer of children. It's got to stop. And I don't think there's a single person in any public school in this country who would not put themselves in front of a bullet to protect a child. And I thank each and every one of you for doing that. Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
So what you're doing with Teacher Unify is part of how we have to solve a problem and solve this problem, particularly when there is, again, an administration that wants to not only defund these programs, but pretend gun violence as a killer of children doesn't exist. And part of what many of us have learned in the fight against authoritarianism and the fight against erasure is that it means that the people have a bigger job than they had before. So Senator Sanders just talked about a job that we have to do for November 2026. Could you imagine for a second if Senator Sanders or if someone in the House of Representatives, maybe like AOC or others, could actually hold a hearing about gun violence, could actually then be the checks and balances, like we were in a shadow hearing today about that. So we have to take this moment of time to actually be the face of it, to actually be the advocates, to actually overcome fear and overcome apathy and not give up.
And I would just add, yes, you can clap for Randi. Yes, no, please. I would add, we have to hold our, as Randi said, we have to hold our heads high. We have to tell the stories. We cannot stop telling the stories. We have to put a face on what gun violence in our schools is. We have to do that and keep fighting. And we have to keep pushing our legislators to legislate common sense gun laws. Thank you.
Can I just tell a quick story?
This is an issue that I always find difficult to even talk about it, because just conjuring up the image of what has happened is almost unspeakable. It's almost something, it's really quite nightmarish.
It is.
And as horrible as the instances that we have heard and others that we have not discussed, is the insanity that in this country today, there are kids going to school, and I saw this in Vermont. I didn't fully appreciate it. Sit down, I talk to kids a lot. They worry. So you imagine going to school. You're supposed to be studying math and English and science. And you're worried about some horrible thing. Horrible thing. I mean, this just speaks to some of the very deep-seated problems that exist in our country, which are not going to be solved overnight. But we have got to address. And as others have said, instead of dividing us up, on the color of our skin or where we were born, maybe we sit down and try to figure out how these things are happening and what it means to our kids. Okay. Yes, sir. Last question, I think. Yes, sir. Please.
My name is Freddie Ellis.
Freddie, get the mic there, right there.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Freddie Ellis. I'm a New York City public school teacher. I've taught for over 35 years, retired, but still teach in the same school. But one of the questions I like to ask you, we're talking about all the violence and so on and so
Freddie,
forth.
tell the school.
Excuse me?
Tell the school that you teach.
Oh, Public School 10 in Park Slope section of Brooklyn. Okay, but one of the biggest problems we're having, and this touches on what the school violence of guns, is the breakdown of the family unit. And is there a type of program that we could set up? At least, I know it's not an overnight solution here, but as you just mentioned earlier, but some type of program to help with the families. Even at one point, someone even suggested changing the whole structure of public schools, where we could keep it open, teachers work on shifts, serve breakfast, lunch, dinner, because this is really contributing to a lot of our problems as well.
Let me start off by saying, Freddie, I went to PS 197, Flatbush. Look, you're asking a very deep question. And I think, let me answer it and others can chime in, by saying that I think maybe the most difficult thing that politicians have got to do is have the courage to assess and discuss the enormous crises facing our country in so many respects. And I think we lose credibility with the American people when we don't acknowledge whether it's the economic struggle or the fear of violence or the reality there are tens of millions of people who can't afford health care. You've got to talk about the reality. And one of those realities, Freddie, is that you got a lot of families out there who are dysfunctional. And a lot of things we got to do. I mean, I would say that the first thing you do, one of the first things you do, is you make sure that everybody in America, not just teachers, everybody earns a living wage by raising that minimum wage to a living wage. Second thing you do, and think about how transformative this would be, to say, you know what, health care is a human right. And thirdly, again, instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires, people can argue and we can disagree, and it's a good discussion. How do we address that problem? But let's understand that that is a problem, that in the richest country on earth, we have the resources to begin addressing it. All right? So that's my answer. Anybody else want to jump in here? Corey, did you want to? I've been quiet.
I can, Senator. You know, it's one thing I'd like to point out is, to your point, the cost of living in the city of Boston has become outrageous. Right. The cost of housing has become absolutely outrageous. Right. One thing I have noticed in the course of my career, which is not terribly long, is that we have, when I started, you know, you'd have, you know, mom, dad, 2 kids maybe living in a 3-bedroom apartment, okay? What we're increasingly seeing is we'll have, you know, mom, dad, and 2 kids living in one room in a 3-bedroom apartment. And each other room has got maybe mom, dad, and 2 kids. So now you have 12 people in one apartment sharing a kitchen and a bathroom. How do you find the peace and quiet to do your homework? How do you find the time to have dinner together? Where do you do it? These are real challenges we're facing outside of the school that are directly impacting our kids today. And very much in tune with the idea of economic inequality we're facing here in this country.
All right, I want everybody to think about what Corey just said. The overall line you hear in D.C. is, well, hey, these are tough times. We got to do some austerity. We got to cut back here. Can't afford health care. Can't afford decent wages. That is a lie. Mm-hmm. That is a fundamental lie. Nobody in America should be having to live under the conditions that Corey just described. Why are we not building the millions of low-income and affordable housing units that we need, putting workers to work, building those units in good union jobs? So I would say that, to me, the major political issue that we face is recognizing the crises, trying to understand why they exist in the richest country on earth, figuring out how we bring our people together to address those crises through a fundamental change in the priorities of this country. All right, with that, I'm afraid this has been a great meeting. And again, I want to thank our panelists, and I want to thank all of you for what you're doing and every teacher in America. Thank you all.
Thank you.